Firms that introduce advisory and bespoke advisory as an add-on to compliance lose approximately 30% of their profits. In today's SME world, this approach just doesn't work. It breaks down. Whereas firms that are introducing a repeatable, scalable advisory offering are three timesing their profits. It's not advisory has failed so much as the old model does.
Accountants are getting freedom of choice over their clients, their schedule, and the work that they do. They're having holidays with their loved ones for 3 weeks or more at a time.
AI matters now because your clients are already using it. Not that AI is going to be replacing accountants, but AI is stepping into the advisory gap when we as accountants don't. So this is the real risk. So the future isn't really AI versus accountants, it's guided clients versus unguided clients. Instead of being the hero with all the answers, you as the accountant become.
Possibly you've tried advisory before and it hasn't worked and you want a better way. Maybe you're delivering advisory to only the top 10% of your clients and want to help more of them. Potentially, you haven't seen clarity for a while and want to know what's changed. Or maybe you've been told how other accountants are doing great things with clarity and want to know more. Now, we know that you are here for a demo, which we will get to shortly, but it would be remiss of us not to set the scene first. So here's what we will cover today. So first, it's the current environment and opportunity, and why advisory has become essential rather than optional. Then it's Clarity's NextGen Advisory. It's the structure to market, price, sell, and deliver advisory. I'll show you the platform itself so you can see how this moves from theory to practical delivery. And finally, we'll show you what it looks like to implement this properly inside your firm. Now, our aim today is simple: clarity. You'll leave knowing whether this is the right model for your practice. And what you will learn will explain how accountants are getting freedom of choice over their clients, their schedule, and the work that they do. They're getting peer and community recognition for the work they're doing with their clients. And they're having holidays with their loved ones for 3 weeks or more at a time. And they're generating 3 times their operating profit. A quick introduction to myself before we do. So I'm Steve Brigginshaw, for those of you that don't know me. I'm a chartered accountant and I've been in the profession for 25 years. I'm also the author of an international best-selling book, The Profits Principles. Now, I started, built and sold my own award-winning accounting firm delivering business advisory services. But part of the reason for selling was I wanted to make a bigger difference to business owners, including accounting partners. And that's when I met Aynsley.
Hi, Steve, and thank you very much. My name is Aynsley. I am a chartered accountant as well. I left KPMG and joined a regional accounting firm in the UK. I took that from a compliance-only accounting firm to a niche business advisory firm over a number of years. We won a huge number of awards for the way we did business, particularly the way we did business advisory. And again, like Steve, I wanted to make a bigger impact. We knew that there had to be a better way to enable us to use tools that would scale advisory across a bigger element. We're passionate about small businesses and more passionate about accountants being the best placed people to help small businesses succeed. And that's effectively why we created Clarity, to fill that gap. Now, 1980s style advisory and why it no longer works. See, traditional advisory was designed in the 80s for large corporations, not small businesses. It was built around bespoke engagements, complex models, lengthy reports, and partner-led delivery. It assumes stable markets, that there's plenty of time, and clients are willing and able to pay for deep analysis before taking the action. In today's SME world, this approach just doesn't work. It breaks down. It's slow. It's expensive, it's hard to explain, and it's almost impossible to scale. It relies on a small number of senior people in the team. It creates bottlenecks in the organization, potentially overwhelms clients with detail, and often produces answers that never get implemented. So it's not advisory has failed so much as the old model does. And that's why we've shifted to NextGen Advisory. It's designed for modern SMEs and modern firms. It replaces the bespoke complexity with a repeatable structure. It focuses on outcomes, not reports. It helps business owners understand their numbers, make better business decisions, and take action more quickly and consistently. Instead of being the hero with all the answers, you as the accountant become the guide. It's systemized, scalable, team deliverable, and commercially viable. Clients engage because they get it, teams deliver it with confidence, and firms create capacity, profitability, and impact. So it's the same profession, same skills, just a completely different model. Now, before we get into what advisory does from a monetary perspective, I do just want to draw a line in the sand with AI. And now, let me be clear here. This isn't again about scare tactics. We've heard those as accountants before. The advances of offshoring, that compliance was dead, that we needed to move to advisory, that the cloud was going to take over. This is different. AI matters now because your clients are already using it. We're seeing so many firms where their clients are turning up and saying, ChatGPT told me I should do this. What do you think? And suddenly, as an accountant, you're reacting instead of leading. You're defending a position, doing unpaid research, explaining the context after the fact. So this is the real risk. Not that AI is going to be replacing accountants, but AI is stepping into the advisory gap when we as accountants don't. So what's emerging is a two-speed world in many respects, an AI-led self-serve economy, and at the other end, human-led, high-value advisory. And what gets squeezed is in the middle. So you won't be able to be a low-cost accountant without heavy AI in your firm, and you won't be able to charge premium fees either without a clearly defined human value. So this isn't about information anymore because AI has commoditized information. Advisory value now lives in context, it lives in judgment, prioritization, and more importantly, accountability. So the question isn't if this will happen, it's when it's going to happen. And the firms that win won't wait. They'll use AI to augment their thinking and step up as guides for their small business clients, not as reporters of history. So the future isn't really AI versus accountants, it's guided clients versus unguided clients. Now, why next gen business advisory? Let's look at some numbers here. The reality is that when we introduce a repeatable, scalable next-gen advisory service offering, it reduces the level of time spent on engagements by up to 67%. Now that's massive. That enables you to deliver more advisory to more of your clients. Instead of working with just 10 to 15 bespoke engagements, you're now able to do 2 to 3 times that amount with the same team and with the same time. But more importantly, we're seeing, and we've seen, this is not just the numbers that we've seen, but also reports done by Xero in Canada, show that firms that introduce advisory and bespoke advisory as an add-on to compliance lose approximately 30% of their profits. Whereas firms that are introducing a repeatable, scalable advisory offering are 3 timesing their profits. And we've seen that in reality as well. And you might say, well, Aynsley, that's all very well, but 3 times profitability, are we talking 5, 10 years hence? Well, no, we're not. Our firms that are part of our elite academy, their average increase in the last 12 months was 97% profitability increase. So that's doubling their profits within a 12-month period. And that's massive. And we'll meet some of those firms that are achieving those results in a little bit. And more importantly, when we introduce NextGen Advisory, it's about helping our clients experience the value before they get to say yes. It's helping small business owners make a buying decision rather than making it a selling proposition for us. So professional services, we believe, are bought, not sold. And when we use NextGen Advisory and help clients experience the value that we can deliver, then the conversion rates are approximately 66%. So that pretty much mirrors actually what we see from studies which show that 60 to 70% of your clients are looking for more from you. And you might say, well, it's all very well, but how do we do that in a way that enables them to experience and get value, but also profitably from our perspective and in a way that's sustainable and scalable for us? Well, NextGen is the way, and that's going to give you a massive increase. We want to share that with you today, show you how it can be delivered in a repeatable, scalable way. Now, just a quick introduction to some of the firms that are doing great things with Clarity, and you may or may not have heard of some of them. So first, I wanted to introduce you to Graham Tennick. He's won, again, a huge number of awards for the way he did business. And his, I suppose, main drive in getting in touch with you is saying that if you think that Clarity is just a piece of software, you're missing the point. It's much more than that. It's a mindset. It's a different way of doing business. And within 2 weeks of introducing Clarity, Graham had generated £42,000 of fees for the firm. Now, he's gone on to generate, I think, as we can see here, in excess of £500,000 worth of fees from business advisory because he's been able to introduce that repeatable, scalable way, getting the team on board. And it's not just down to him in the business to deliver advisory. Sharon, within, I think it was 3 months of running a business improvement summit with us, generated an extra £82,000 of GRF from business advisory services. And again, she's gone on to do more and more over the years. More importantly for Sharon, it was about removing those bottlenecks in the business, and it was about getting more of the team involved in delivering advisory and being able to scale it. Penny was looking to sell her business. And by really focusing and doing the right things from an advisory perspective, she was able to generate an extra 120K profit within a 6-month period. This is with the same team and with the same time. It meant that she could structure a deal that was the deal that she was looking for, which enabled her to exit from the business whilst Jonathan, her husband, was able to stay in the business. And they hadn't been able to do that with the profitability of their firm before this stage. So this was a massive shift in the way that they were able to do business and how they were able to exit. Now, for Penny, with the multiple on exit, it wasn't just 120K one-off. That was obviously with the multiples earned. We're talking, in excess again of £500,000. So a huge difference to her firm and to her life. We've also got Emily, who had been using advisory for quite a while, and she found it very difficult to price and very difficult for her to be able to explain the value to her small business clients. And Clarity gave her that methodology, that ability to be able to do advisory for more of her clients. And she now includes it as standard as part of the engagement she does. So you can't go to her firm if you're not interested in doing business advisory work. Paul Miller, another great example. He's again, you're going to see many of these firms are very similar to firms like you. We're not necessarily talking London-centric firms. We're talking about firms in Newcastle, in Hereford, in Italy. Emily works. She's an American accountant that works in Italy. For example, we're not talking about people who are working in big cities. We're talking about firms just like you that are operating all over the world and who are able to introduce a repeatable, scalable offering. Paul is in Cornwall. Again, not the center of the universe. I think Paul would probably object to that. He probably thinks Cornwall is the center of the universe. But for his firm, it improved his profitability within 2 years. He was able to generate significantly more profits from reducing his client count because he was delivering those added value services. And then we've got James, who is saying it's just modern day management reporting. Finally, clients get their numbers. One client said, I've never learned so much about my business, and that was in just a 50-minute initial meeting with the client to be able to help them experience the value that you can deliver. And finally, we have Matt, who went on our blueprint and generated 32,000 GRF within the first month alone. So we're seeing firms generate massive results quickly, and this is consistently and repeatably because they're able to introduce a repeatable, scalable advisory offering. Now, before we get into the platform, I just want to introduce the where it fits into the Clarity suite, as it were. And I want to also reiterate that when we come back, we're going to show you that structure in more diagrammatic form. We're also going to go through the ability and the types of services and the fees that you can generate from repeatable, scalable advisory. And we'll talk to you about the next steps. But before we get to that demo of the platform, I just wanted to share with you where Clarity, the platform, and the demo that Steve's going to go through with you fits into the overall suite. So Clarity is end to end. It's a complete suite for your accounting firm to help you market, price, sell, deliver business advisory services. The platform itself is just one element of what we do, and it's that structure built within technology for you to be able to deliver. But our education is world class, and it's what people consistently refer to time and time and time again. The structure that Clarity gives them, plus the education and the tools to be able to help them implement and introduce our scale advisory within the firm. Now, we've got an accelerator program, we've got a blueprint, which is 90 days, helping you get from start to finish, getting your first five clients over the line. We've got online education platforms, we've got master classes, we've got our academy, we've got community. So it's not you left to your own devices, it's giving you a complete end-to-end solution, giving you access to a step-by-step implementation plan, plus the support and help from us along the way. The Clarity Success team are here not just to help you with how to use the platform, they're there to help you implement, generate success, and generate a massive return on an investment from Clarity. And because we all have been there before, we've all been involved in firms and worked with advisory in accounting firms. It's real life stuff. We've been there at the I suppose the front line, dealing with small businesses, dealing with teams. We understand the issues and challenges you're facing, and we're here to help. We're not just going to let you off with a piece of software and off you go. We're going to be there from start to finish to be able to help you implement Clarity. Now, enough about the setting the scene and the opportunity for you. Let's dive into the platform and let's come back and talk later a little bit about the next steps. So, as I said, Clarity is end to end, and Steve is going to take you through each of these steps one by one. The first step is to help you identify the clients in the first place. And often we hear accountants say, I'm not sure I have the clients. Well, with Clarity, we can tell you instantly. Pretty much, if you've got 0 clients, you can load all of your clients in one go. If you're using QuickBooks or you're using Sage, then we have to load the clients a little bit one by one. But again, it's not an onerous task, and we'll be able to help you identify very, very rapidly the potential within your client base and whether you've got the right clients. So I'm going to let Steve delve into the platform, show you portfolio view and how we make that happen.
Thank you, Aynsley. Now, that first step, identify. So being able to really understand your client base and who is the best possible clients, or who are the best possible clients to go and speak with first. This is where portfolio view that you're seeing on your screen now really comes into its own. In addition to what I'm about to show you of how we can identify those clients, you have all of your clients all in one place, as Aynsley said, coming in from different online platforms, but you can also add clients who are on desktop software too. You can add that via manual entry or import a TB to be able to get them into the platform. And we have a filter section over here on the left-hand side where we can filter by location, by sector, by their data source, by the year-end date, and by any of the information that we create here. So in these firm data tags, it gives us an opportunity to classify and group our clients, if you like, based on particular things that are most important to your firm. So mine here are grade, service level, and the manager who looks after them. But you can do whatever you like, and we can certainly advise on the best thing to do for you there. Now, over on the right-hand side here where my cursor is, you'll see this current 7 key numbers, and we get that information broken down here by revenue, gross profit, operating profit or EBITDA. Then we have revenue per employee, the core cash target and core cash gap. So the core cash target, that is 2 months worth of overheads set aside, as well as the taxes due payable. And then the gap, if it's positive, it means the client has more in the bank than they need. If it's negative, it means they don't. They've got a little bit more to add in reserve to be a resilient business. We also have cash days. So that's another way of describing working capital days, and a business return, which is our take on ROCE, return on capital employed, because most small business owners strip out their balance sheet. So it's a, a comparison of looking at the business of the operating profit divided by a deemed valuation of 2.5 times the business operating profit adjusted for market rate salary. Now, I'll show you what that looks like in a moment for each client, but that's just a high level view of what we've got here. So we can scroll, look down at all the clients, see how everybody's performing. So again, on its own, that is really helpful and fantastic. But the great thing to be able to see which clients we can go and speak to next or first is that we can use this slider here. So let's just say, for argument's sake, I'm going to put 10% in to see what the numbers look like. And then I'm going to sort by the potential profit. You would have seen that these numbers changed. They were previously the current 7 key numbers. They're now the improved 7 key numbers. So it gives us an understanding of what we're looking at here with clients. And then we can go through and look at how they're performing or what potential that those clients actually have. So that gives us a batting order in terms of which clients to go for. Now we have a whole process and methodology around who to go for first, how to build confidence, obviously get clients across the line so that they buy your additional services and you start delivering that before you then help everybody else. And all that's explained in our online education and by our member success team and supporting you through that process. So that is the first area of how we can then start to work on helping clients. What we can also do is utilize our AI assistant. And the process that it will go through here is if I click this button, Numina, who is named after the goddess of wisdom and numbers, so brought into the platform, she'll be able to take us through a chat to analyze our client base for us. So you can do it manually following the methodology that we have, but you'll also be able to get the platform to do it for you on your behalf. And then you can get to see whether those clients you agree with or not, but she's done it purely from a mathematical perspective. So she'll say that, do you want assistance in helping? Say yes. I've used that date. I'm just going to say yes, because that's the date that I've got on the platform for the moment. So yes, use that end date, but otherwise you can choose a different one. And then she explains that we're filtering clients. So the instinct is to remove additional potential. So she goes on here to explain the profit window. So this is the criteria that we recommend going after clients first. And you can click the link here and it will take you off to our help article, where that will explain how she's done it, how she's ranked clients high, medium, and low, and then what that profit window actually looks like. But let's get back here. So let's bring in all of my clients. So I haven't got many in my dashboard because it's a demo account. So she's explaining that there's fewer than 10. So she's just going to recommend the ones that she feels are beneficial. So then once that's done, she will then put them into what we call deal flow. And I'm going to come back to that later, actually. I'm not going to show you that now. I'm going to be a little bit of a tease, apologize. But I'll show you what Numina has actually done. And she will help choose which clients to go after first. So not only do you have the methodology and you can do it manually and very simply just scrolling down the screen and ticking the clients to say, yep, these are the ones we want to go to based on the criteria profit and the cash gap. And you can then add them to deal flow manually from the action screen. And then that would add them to what Newman has just done effectively, but she will do it too. So that's identify. Ains, anything else to add before we jump into the next step, which is connecting with clients? Oh, you're on mute there, Ains.
No, I think that's pretty much good to go, Steve. Thank you very much.
Okie dokie.
Heading back to the next stage of the flow, which is connect with the clients. Now, we're going to show you the platform connecting with the clients and how Steve is going to get those clients excited about coming in to speak to you about the meeting. We probably won't show you in this screen in the next few minutes where the numbers are coming from, because Steve is going to take you through from start to finish how you'd have a meeting. And we'll show you how we connect during the meeting on the pricing and the selling as part of the service. The first stage I really want to do with Connect is just show you how we generate reports very simply, very quickly, to be able to connect with clients, get them excited about coming in to meet with you, using their language and the things that excite them about getting about why they'd want to get in touch with you as an accountant to talk to them about their business. So that's what we're going to do with the first part of Connect. But I just want you to realize that Connect also means the whole marketing and the pricing and selling of business advisory, let alone outside this platform where we've got the complete education tools on the psychology of sales, understanding the personas of buyers, understanding how to connect with those small business owners, and even before then, how do we market to them? So that's included in our education and our community and our online and face-to-face events. But in the platform, we're just going to look at how we generate reports really, really quickly that we're going to get the clients excited about their business and ready to kick on to the next level.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Aynsley. So let's do that now. So let's generate a report. So as Aynsley said, it's one of the strings to the bow of Connect, how to get a connection with clients and get them excited about what's the potential in their business. So I'm going to select the initial report. So from here, I've got that set up for my client. I'm going to choose the period that I want to report to, and I'm just going to move all of the sliders, let's just say by 10%. Now, the initial report is, as it sounds, an initial report to get the client's attention to have an initial clarity meeting. And clarity, not just the software and the membership and methodology, but clarity in the sense that the client is going to really understand their business and understand their potential. So I've got the client name, I've chosen the date, I'm going to improve all of the sliders at this point. And this is the only time you would do that is when you're just looking to get some attention. I'll explain how you would improve them individually in a moment. I'm going to download that report. So I've got this is my firm's logo. Of course, you can add your own. And then I'm going to click confirm and download that report. And once downloaded, we'll be able to look at how this report is very high level, very simple, very visual, and gets the attention of the client very quickly. So let's fire up that report. So here we can see that by moving the slider 10% for all of the 5 areas here, you can see, so revenue growth, gross profit percentage, operating profit percentage, revenue per employee, and cash days. So in making 10% improvements in all of those would help generate just shy of 50k profit and just over 50k in cash. Now, most business owners will be very interested in understanding that that's possible for their business and would like to learn more. And then you have a call to action in this report and in the information that you send with it. More on that in a moment. But you can see here that it's just a 3-page report because we don't want to overwhelm the client with information. We're making it very visual so they can see what their potential is within their business. There is some information here about what we've done. And that we need to have a meeting ideally to be able to go through this in more detail and look what the actual potential is. This is just what we think the potential is. And if for any reason the client is more interested in the detail, the next 2 pages show what each of those numbers mean, how much of the improvement relates to that specific number, and some generic improvements that they can do, some actions they can take to improve that number. Now, we don't want to be too specific here because obviously we want to meet with them, but should they not want the meeting, they then feel like they've got something to go away and work on. So it really is being very helpful and valuable to the client. And then you can see the next steps, depending on how you send this, is to say, phone this number or click the link in the email to book a meeting. Now, a word on that, what we found is that the conversion rates are much higher if you send this in the post rather than sending an email. That's on the assumption that you usually send reports by email or you normally correspond with clients by email. So that's a really, really interesting tip and insight there, that you would send it in a different way to what you normally do to get their attention, so then it has more of an impact. So with a comp slip, handwritten comp slip saying, we'd love to chat with you on these, please find this number to book a meeting. And then they've got the report underneath to explain everything. So that's just one report that you can send. There are many other reports that we can send out. A benchmarking report's great to get the client interested to see how they can improve and how they can get compared to their peers and different companies in their sector. Because most business owners want to know how they're performing, particularly competitive ones as well, want to beat their competitors. And the other reports in the platform they tend to be for after meetings. We'll have a look at those as we go through the session today. So now back to the slides, Ains, I think.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that that report's completely editable, as are all the reports within Clarity. In fact, much of the things that we're going to show you today, many of the things that we're going to show you today, even better from a grammatical perspective, are completely editable. So you can change what we've got. We've given you something to get going. So everything there is to get going. We've given you pricing, we've given you agendas, we've given you reports, but again, fully customizable and you can change them for your own firm. Now, as Steve said, you can email them from the system. But as we said, sometimes email can get a little bit lost by sending it in the post. We can tend to see a better conversion rate. And then again, that's not with a covering letter. That's generally with a compliment slip, a handwritten compliment slip, which really gets the client's attention. Recently, we've seen a lot of firms use Loom to be able to send this out. So they might do a Loom video of the report, or they might actually show the client's data screens, which Steve will show you next, and use those as part of the Loom video to send out. Again, showing the clients their numbers and the improvements in their numbers specifically, and showing them why they want to have a conversation with them, why they want to get them there in the first place. And also, we see sometimes that partners are just picking up the phone and saying, "Look, I've been looking at your numbers. I think you're leaving money on the table. It's about 70K if we can improve the five levers of success by 10%, for example. I'd love to get a meeting in the diary with you to show you that and go through that in more detail when suits." And that's obviously got a huge conversion rate as well. We're seeing across the various methods, the average conversion rate of contacting a client to getting them in front of you is about 80%. And look, the reason why it's that high is because you're saying very, very simply, we've been looking at your numbers. As accountants, we're your numbers experts. That's not said, that's implicit. We see a potential improvement. There's a big gap, potential money being left on the table. We'd love to meet with you to go through that in more detail and talk to you. And of course, small business owners who are interested in improving their profitability or their cash position or are interested in growing or who are just interested in better performance are going to say, well, absolutely, I want to have a chat and see what you're talking about. Even if I don't believe you, I'm going to want to see what you're talking about so that I can understand it for myself. So we're seeing that 80% conversion rate from contacting the clients to getting them in front of you to be able to help them understand what's possible in their business. So massive, I says massive conversion rate. We've had Kim, who's just joined recently, who was part of our accelerator program and then started the blueprint. And I think in her first 3 weeks, she's contacted three of her clients that she felt were I suppose, easy to fail. They were ones that she was convinced were having no interest whatsoever. They're very hard to contact. And she thought, well, I'll just try these three to start with. And if I mess up, it doesn't really matter. Well, in fact, two of them booked a meeting straight away, and one was away and has booked one subsequently. She's had actually better success on those meetings than she thought, and I'll explain what that was as well. So let's get back to that river, as we call it, and let's look at the next stage, which is about engaging. Now, this connecting and engaging, I suppose, is that overlap that I was talking about. Steve is going to walk you through a client meeting in summary, showing you what we would probably take them through in that first initial meeting and showing you how easy it is for you to be able to demonstrate what you can do from a value perspective and effectively get the clients to experience that value as we're going along. So a whole way to inspire your clients to work with you. So Steve, if you want to dive in and show us from start to finish how that works.
Will do, thank you. This is where the structure comes into its own, and it's playing to our strengths as logical accountants, but also reflects the simplicity and understanding numbers for your clients as well. So let's take this demo company here, Aynsley Avengers, and I'm going to choose a different period this time, just so I know I've got some more information in here. And this is how we start. And in fact, what you might want to do is click the Show Journey button, and this gives the overview of the business advisory map. So this is a fantastic way to create a visual agenda. Now you also have an agenda in the platform, and I'll show you that in a moment, that goes along with our workflows and service maps. But this acts as a lovely visual agenda to take the client through the process, because it just happens to be that most entrepreneurial people are visual people. And we can explain this is what we're going to do today. We're going to look at where you are now using the 7 key numbers that every business owner needs to know. We're going to have a look at the benchmarking to see how you compare. And then we're going to play with the numbers with the 5 levers of success and see what your potential is. And after that, we will create a simplified action plan for you to get going on some tasks for over the next 30 days, let's say, for you to just get started on that. And then if it's the right thing to do, we'll talk about how we can help you create other plans, but also then do some ongoing review. Does that sound good? Most clients will say, yes, let's get started. So then we can jump into the 7 key numbers. Now, just before I do that, just to signpost what we've got here, the business diagnostic review. So this is a service in itself that you can offer. We're going to go into a little bit more detail about that in a little bit, where we jump back into the slides so you can see how that works, and also the pricing and the time that it takes to actually get this to work for your clients. And you will be surprised that it's hardly any time at all. Very, very different to bespoke advisory like Aynsley was talking about earlier. So the business diagnostic review, that is one service line that you can offer. Planning is another service line in addition to monitoring. And then we also have the business success program. Now that's for another day in terms of going into detail on that. We will give you a high level view of what that looks like. So when clients have gone through a monitor service, maybe once, and they're ready to exit, or to have someone come in, succession, to run their business, or just to extraction to get themselves out of day to day. Could be 5 years down the line though. So we've had that with many of our members where their clients are ready between that 1 to 5 year period that they will then jump into a business success program. And we'll show you what that looks like shortly. But these are different services that you can offer too. So it's already starting to shape what's available for the clients as you go through this conversation, in addition to it being a visual agenda. So we're going to jump back into the 7 key numbers. And here, this is where we've got those numbers again that I alluded to from the portfolio view. So we have revenue growth, gross profit percentage, operating profit or EBITDA percentage, revenue per employee. And yes, that is every single full-time equivalent employee, not just the fee earners, and includes subcontractors, consultants, and our offshore team, because we want to get an accurate number because they all contribute, whether they're fee earning or not, they all contribute to the business. We've got working capital days, or cash days, we call it. You'll notice that we're using business owner language, not our accountant terminology. The core cash target we talked about before being 2 months worth of your overhead set aside along with your taxes payable, and then business return, which is our take on return on capital employed, just to show what the blood, sweat, and tears of the business owner, what type of return they are getting for that in their business. So here we can see very quickly that the business is red in lots of areas. In fact, all of the areas. So not a very good 12 months in comparison to the previous 12 months. And we'll have a look at the business, so the benchmarking shortly as well, to see how they're getting on there. So in this area, we don't want to spend too much time. We're just setting the tone, if you like, a stick in the sand to say, well, this is where things are. And we can see that things have gone backwards this year. And the client may well know about that, but we're not going to dwell on it. We don't need to know why at this moment in time, because we're going to focus more on where we can help them get to, and put more of their energy into that. What you can also do here, though, is just to add some more context for yourself and your team, is flip the tiles around. You can click on them and it will give you a little bit of an understanding of what's going on. So you can see with this business, they're at 246 now. They were at 333. And that's why we've got that drop in revenue. The prior year, though, they doubled their revenue. So, and we can hover over here and see what the figures actually were. And that gives us an idea, starts to set the scene, a little bit more trend analysis of what's going on. We can also help in terms of preparation before the meeting. We've got the AI assistant here as well. Now, I will click this one, that you're going to see these buttons throughout the platform, but just to give you an idea again of what it can do, I'm going to click this one so you can see what's happening. So let's jump in. So that's my name, by the way, my demo account, demo test. So hi, demo test. Would you like some assistance analyzing performance, position, and trends of this business based on the last 12 months? Yes, please. And yep, that's the date I want to use. And then off she goes, number crunching. So she's going to look at each of these numbers in isolation. So Numina is going to crunch that. She's going to compare the last 12 months back to the prior 3 years. So she's going to do a good analysis of what's going on in the business and bring some context. So we don't want to just look at the last 12 months and how we've performed. So we've got that on the screen here, which is really helpful and it's a good indicator. But we also need to know if there are any trends happening in the business or if there's something else that we should be aware of. So she's going to do that for each of the 7 key numbers. And there we go. She's finished it. But she's also going to do a summary as well. So if I just scroll back to the top, and by the way, you can export this into a PDF, into a Word document. So you can edit it, highlight it, print it out, have it on your desk when you want to speak with your clients and just pick out the main things. So here's the overall summary that she's provided for us. So we've had a significant decline in revenue during 2023, where it dropped off from the year before, and then it jumped up, and then it's dropped down again. So just give us an understanding that something's going on from revenue. We just need to be aware of this. Gross profits remained high throughout though, so that's pretty good. But the operating margin, that has significantly dropped too. Most likely the costs have been incurred at similar levels, but the revenue's been yo-yoing around. And then she goes into each of those here, so explaining what's going on. And if I just scroll down to the bottom, and we look at the conclusion. So in summary, while there are signs of some operational efficiencies, such as a high gross profit margin, the overall financial position of the client has deteriorated significantly in the current period compared to the previous periods. That even though that it's gone up, the revenue, a couple of years ago, it's still dropped now. And the year before that, if you saw when we clicked on the tile, was even worse. So there's something strange going on. She's picked that trend up. So we need to address what sales performance, what's going on. We need to help improve cash flow and streamline that because we want to make sure that the business has sufficient cash to be able to operate. Now, you might be able to see on the screen that this business here, if you look here where my cursor is, they have 400K in the bank. So from a cash perspective, they're probably okay. But not all businesses have that much resilience in their balance sheet. So she's just given us a really good understanding of what's going on. So fantastic way to build confidence in the team because they probably saw that themselves anyway, but then it's had Numina, our AI assistant, say that too. So that just builds confidence and gives the main talking points in preparation ahead of the meeting, just to make it go as smoothly as possible. But like I said, we don't want to spend too much time here. What we actually want to do is spend more time elsewhere. And to be able to where we're going to go next is into how you compare. Now, we can compare to just our clients, or we compare to all businesses. So I'm going to do all businesses. Now, I'm in my demo environment, so I don't have that many businesses here, but we have over 17,000, might even be 18,000 now on the platform. So we're adding new businesses all the time. Every time new firms join the Clarity platform and Clarity membership. So we can see here what is going on is there's a line graph. So based on the 7 key numbers, we can see how the business is performing in comparison to its peers. And the line graph will, it will pretty much be this squiggle based on because you can see that we can actually select filters. So we can filter by location, we can filter by business type, and we can actually compare in here as well to some of our other clients and anonymize them as well if we wanted to. So lots of flexibility to show the client how well they're doing in comparison to others. Naturally, the more filters you use, the less number of businesses there's going to be, but this line will pretty much be the same. So what we can see here, if we think about it in traffic lights, and this is what our benchmarking report does, is a green light is anything in the top 20th percentile. So 80% up to 100%. So in that period, we're going to have some green lights. So revenue per employee and core cash gap. Brilliant. They're green lights because we know that they had quite a lot of cash in hand. Amber is going to be these two. So 40 to 80. So we've got a few here. Revenue, gross profit percentage, and EBITDA profit. EBITDA percentage, operating profit. But we also have some reds. So the reds are 0 to 40. So revenue growth is just sort of around that red amber line, cash days and business return as well. So it just gives us an opportunity to focus on what we need to look at. So although they've had some turbulence with revenue, compared to my data on the platform, that their revenue is reasonable. It's not too bad. So it's not an area that's a main cause for concern, but their operating profit is, which may have a direct link to revenue. So it just really helps us signpost what we should be focusing on with the client, similar to what Numina did with her analysis. The operating profit and revenue are the main areas to focus on. We could argue that because revenue growth's down here, that's definitely something to look at, as well as cash days. So even though they've got a lot of cash in the bank, they're taking a long time to get that cash in. So we should look at that. And the business return is low, most likely because the operating profit is as well. So we've got some knock-on effects there. So it just really starts to help paint the picture, and the clients can see how they compare to everyone else. So again, we're not going to spend too much time here. I'm just going to go through what that actually looks like in terms of this is how you stand, and these are the areas for focus. These ones are great, and these ones we probably need to get to once we've focused on these areas here. And at that point, that's when we can then go into what we can actually do with the business. Now, for the report, you saw that I moved this all the way across to all of them for 10%. We're not going to do that when we're with the client because we need to do them individually. But this is where we then get co-creation with the client and get them involved in the numbers. So they mean something more. They start to get emotionally connected. And there's a series of questions that we go through as well in our education to help with that. But what we can do is really start to paint a picture. So with revenue, we can see currently they're 246, they were 333. So we can say to the client, if we could just get you back to where you were, that's an extra 18K to the bottom line. Extra profit in cash. Is that possible? Now, the year before they had 100%, over 100% increase in revenue. This time they've had a minus 26%. They'll be able to tell you what's possible or not. But you may have seen we've got a Get AI Assistant button here as well. And I'm not going to, as I mentioned, I'm not going to have time to go through all of them with you, but what that does, it gives you an idea of what's possible. So Numina will say, this is a safe bet based on their performance as well as what the benchmarking data says. This is a safe bet for their improvement. So let's say 20%. This would be a middling bet, let's say 35%, and then 75% improvement would be a hugely speculative bet. So again, great for preparation and stress testing if the client comes up with, yeah, we're going to do £1,000,000. You say, well, okay, hang on a second. Let's just make sure that we've got some understanding of how you're going to do that. And if they haven't, then we can just rein them in a little bit. But let's just say, for argument's sake, they can get back to where they were. We're going to do that with them with every question. Every area, sorry, ask the same question. So with gross profit, they were at 96. They're now at 95. If we can get you back to 96, what would that look like? Okay, so that adds an extra 3K and so on. So I'm going to move these numbers quickly because you get the idea, I think. So I'm just going to move the sliders just to see what we can do for this business. And then revenue per employee, let's say we can move that a little bit to try and get some more efficiency. And then the same with cash days. You can see here we've gone from 8 to 56. Let's say for argument's sake, we can get to 25. When we then scroll to the top, all of those small improvements work together. So they're cumulative. So we can see now that we've got a 72K potential improvement in profit and a 95K potential in cash. Amazing. And if you remember the report, if we go back to the report, it doesn't always work this way, but that's more than what we had in the report. So that's a nice position to be in. So now we go through a series of questions with the client to get emotional connection and to get them thinking about what that number actually means to them. So that allows us, one, to help them with accountability so that we know what it means to them and we can bring that back up. But also, as I said, it gets them closer to it. They're not just numbers, they're not just pie in the sky because they've actually co-created it with you. And if you ask the question, is this realistic? The client would probably said, if you'd have told me that number at the beginning, I would have said no way. But because we've made these improvements in lots of small improvements in lots of areas, absolutely it's possible. So from there, once we've got the client bought into the numbers and meaning something more to them, we're then able to create an action plan just to help them get started on something over the next 30 days. So that's when we click the Create Action Plan button. And there are a number of different action plan templates that you can utilize. As Aynsley said, pretty much everything in the platform is editable. And you can create custom plans for your niches. for sector specific, where the AI generates it. So Numina will generate based on this client's sector that's in the platform, and that's pulled across from Zero and QuickBooks Online, and it's also in Company's House as well. So if that information is not in Zero, then the company's name is, they'll be able to, the platform will be able to do a lookup on Company's House and pull in the sector for you. So you don't need to enter that too. So you can get Numina to do that. It's sector specific, or maybe before the meeting, you can create a template for that area so you know exactly what's going to come up every time. Or you can just use our simplified version to start with, which is what I'm going to do. So I'm going to replace, I have a plan already. I'm going to replace my existing one, and I don't need the already created tasks. And I'm going to go through this process with the client. So here are some ideas just to help you get started on moving the needle towards those improved figures. And all the client needs to do is say yes or no, whether this task is relevant or not. And again, you can edit these, and you can create your own for your firm and for different sectors too, if you don't want to use the AI generated ones. So brainstorm ways to sell more to existing customers. Yeah, that sounds a good idea. Review the marketing. No, I don't want to do that. Look what our price increase will do. Yeah, sounds like a good idea. And so on. So there are lots of others in here. So if I just click through them, there's about 5 in each area for you to choose, or the client to choose. And if the client has an idea, we can actually type it in here. So this isn't for you to add something, because we don't want to be giving away our advice for free or our ideas for free. We want to do that behind the paywall. So at this point, it's probably the hardest thing we need to do as accountants, because we just want to help them. So we have to be quiet on that and wait before they start paying for us. But let the system do that for you. And then we move to the next section. So everywhere we move the levers, we will have different tasks come up. Now I'm going to whiz through these just so you can see what it looks like afterwards. But of course, you would go through this with the clients and get them to say yes or no as they go through that process. And the final section is how we can help, and that is how your firm can help, and effectively turns your brochure into tasks. So instead of saying we offer budgets, it says let's create a 12-month financial plan to break the business goals into monthly targets. So notice that it uses business owner language, not accountant language. And the client can say whether that's relevant or not. So say, yeah, okay, I'd like to know that. What about comparing those to the actuals each month or quarter? That sounds like a good idea, and so on. So you can put whatever else you want in here to be able to put your other services in the shop window, but as a task format. So that's the sorting. So we've gone through the yes or no. What we then need to do next is the prioritization. So of everything that we've said yes to, we then need to get the client to say which ones are priorities. So I've brought all of those down, I've double clicked them, brought them down into what we call the pending area. We can say to the client, so which one of these is the most important? So let's say, for argument's sake, it's the price increase. And then we're going to do the same with all of them. And they might end up with 7 priorities. So let's just move them down. We'll get a few of them here. And same for us. That one sounded good. They've got room for 7, but we don't want 7. Ideally, we want 3, and 1 for us as the firm. However, if the business owner that you're speaking with isn't going to do all the tasks, we can make an exception and maybe add 1 more so they can end up with 4. But ideally, we want them to have 3. So let's put that one back. And now we've got 3 for the client. And it's the ones that it's either the ones that are going to provide the biggest benefit or the ones that can get done quickly in the next 30 days or so. And once we've finished the prioritization, we click finish, and that's going to take us through to the action plan, which is where we can then assign the names of the people that are going to complete those tasks, as well as the deadlines. So we do that here. So as an example, write that I'm going to do that particular task. You might see this image in the middle here. So that's one I prepared earlier. So if we've gone through those questions on the previous screen, when the client says, yeah, well, what that 72K is going to do for me is going to get the beach holiday that I've always wanted with the family, go skiing as well, and put a deposit down for my dream car. Those are the things that we can use here as like a vision board, if you like, to remind them of what's at stake each time that we're in here. So that's just one I prepared earlier. I'm just going to minimize that though, so we've got a little bit more space on the screen, and then I'm going to choose the deadline. So let's just say I'm going to do that by the end of the month. You would then go through all of those priorities, so those three, and do the same for the one you said, oh, would you like us to raise an extra work order for you on that? Okay, we'll do that by the end of the week. And then at this point, you're going to ask the client, again, it's in our education and the process of how to position this as a buying experience instead of you having to sell. And I think that's a really, really important distinction here. And you and your team are going to ask one particular question that will enable that to happen. And there's some follow-up questions too to help deal with objections, but it's really getting the client to see that what they've just experienced with you is like nothing they've ever had done with them before with their accountant or with anyone else probably. And it's someone who's interested in their business with them as well as understands their numbers. So they've experienced what it's like already to start to work with you more closely in that 50-minute meeting. So there's a good chance that they will say yes. As Ainsley said, it's a 66% conversion rate from going through this process. And if they say no, that's absolutely fine. You can send them a copy of the priorities, all of the other tasks that we said yes to are by the way in the old tasks. So they're all detailed here. So we can always goes back to them too later on, but we can download just the priorities, send them to them and say, can we book in a meeting in 3 months' time just to see how you're getting on? We get another bite of the cherry to be able to help the client. If the client says, yes, let's get started, or what does that look like? Well, then we can click this button here in the platform, and the system's going to recommend the service line that it thinks you should offer the client. Now, you can change the settings for this, and you can change what you offer as well if you want. But again, in our education, we explain why we've got minimum pricing in there and what type of investment in time you need to make to actually deliver these. So what the systems actually recommend is what we call a planning quarterly service. It's £544 a month plus VAT. And this is what's included. So going through the detailed action plan in the first month, in the second month, breaking those figures down into a financial plan and a cash flow sense check. We're going to look at these in a moment as well, by the way. Then having monthly accountability calls, and in between those, each quarter looking through the numbers. And then simply asking the client, when would you like to get started? You can just simply read this. And when the client's ready to get going, you can enter the date and then create the extra work order as a result as well. And then you've got the options to downsell. If affordability is an issue, then you can drop this down and offer a different service so they won't get there as quickly, but it's at a lower price point. But what you can see here is roughly with these figures, that 544, it's going to be a percentage of what this figure is here. So the minimum is £500, and that will enable you to then charge a decent rate and good recovery rates for the 20 hours. So to deliver that service, it takes 20 hours per year per client. So a fantastic recovery rate to generate that level of fee. And the client doesn't need to be good at mental arithmetic to see that that's a fantastic return on investment. And then obviously the higher up the service level you go, the higher the price. And the lower you go, the lower the price, because we want them to be able to get started, but not if their affordability is an issue, as I mentioned. But we know this client's got money, so it shouldn't be a problem for them. Okay, so that is how you engage, or one of the ways that you can really engage your clients going through that process. Aynsley.
Yeah, thanks, Steve. I mean, we've done this with small businesses ourselves, and also from the feedback that we've heard from our accountants, they are hearing things like, I have never seen my numbers like this before, and finally I get my numbers. So this is a much more engaging way to interact with them, to get them excited about their business, to get them to see what's possible in their business. We often hear about sat nav for business, as that's what advisory is. You plug in point A and you plug in point B and you create a route map from A to B, and then you measure and monitor where they are on or off track. The reality is that most small business owners don't understand where they are now. They don't really get their current position, and they certainly haven't thought about what's possible because they're so in the trees, they are in the doing it all the time, that they really haven't had time to to step back and look at what's possible in their business. So by doing this, you're showing them what's possible and showing them how it's possible, and then showing them again how you can help. So it's far more engaging. It's much more outcome focused. It's not about inputs, it's about the outcomes. It's helping, and when you follow the process, you'll understand and engage with them on what they're looking for. Is it more money, more time, more freedom? And how are you going to help them achieve those things? So again, much more engaging way of interacting with your clients. Okay, so getting back to the river, the next stage is, so we've been through and we've shown you how to engage. So we've identified the clients, we've then connected with them on a high level from a how do we get a meeting in the diary. We've then connected and engaged with them throughout the whole process. So where am I now? Where could I get to? What's the gap? And how am I going to create a route from A to B? And we've also done that benchmarking as well along the way. The next stage is how do we deliver advisory on an ongoing basis? And again, what you're going to see here is why it's different from management reporting. I am not dissing management reporting. I'm not saying that management reporting isn't important. Some of your clients will need detailed management reporting. And certainly if they've got external stakeholders, they're going to need that monthly board pack. But for the vast majority of your clients, you might want to do it in a more efficient and effective way. And Clarity gives you the opportunity to do it that way. Now, regardless of whether you're using detailed reporting or not, Clarity will give you the structure to focus on the outcomes and drive those outcomes and move that needle. We've heard from an accountant, Tim, for example, who was doing a lot of management accounts and then having a meeting with the client to talk about the management accounts. In reality, that's still looking at history. That's looking at what's happened and looking about maybe making small incremental changes, but maybe not part of an overall plan to drive the business going forward. And much of the time is focusing on creating the inputs for those reports rather than focusing on the outcomes and what the client can achieve. So it's a slightly different shift in mindset, and it's focusing on pushing the needle and helping clients with accountability because we've seen studies in Southern California by the university there that small business owners who have written goals and who are held accountable achieve 78% more. Now, I know from my time in practice, it was probably 100% more in reality, but let's just go with that lower 78%. And that's a massive shift and drive in the business. Accountability is part of our name. So it's easy for us to be able to extend the work that we do to keeping those clients accountable, to helping them take the actions that are going to drive their numbers in the right way. And when you start working with clients, it's surprising how many of them smash their plans. And it's not magic, it's not rocket science, it's just pure focusing on the actions that are driving the numbers in the right way. And that's what you do. You keep the score, you understand the numbers, you can do the detailed reporting, and you can help the clients understand whether the actions that they're taking on a month by month basis are having the desired impact, yes or no. The numbers never lie, and whether they need to double down, whether they need to maybe take a little bit more time on that action, or whether they might need to pivot or change what they're doing slightly. So it gives you the ability to say the numbers haven't moved in the way that you thought. Did you not do that something that you should have done? Did you do stuff that you shouldn't have done? Or is what you're doing not quite working and maybe you might need to change slightly? So Steve's going to take you through that deliver. So how do we deliver advisory repeatably, scalably, consistently, everybody in the firm doing it the same way on an ongoing basis that eliminates scope creep as much as possible. And after that, we're going to come back and look at manage.
Thank you, Aynsley. So let's go and look at that. But first of all, I was like, well, how do we know what we're delivering? So yes, you would have seen from the pricing button that I clicked earlier, it explains it. But what we actually do have in the platform are service maps. So here, so let's just go to the Clarity Planning service map. And then that's one of the templates that I've played with, but let's go back to the original. Here it gives us a visual of what we need to do every month. So let's just start at the beginning, month 0. So that is what I took you through, the engage piece. So how to have an engaging meeting with clients to get them looking at the numbers like they've never have before and get them excited about working with you. So it breaks down each of the areas in time so that you know where to look to. And I'm going to click on the agenda in a moment as well so you can see what that looks like. So that we've already done that. That's what we just covered with the client. And now the client said, yes, this is what we're going to deliver. So in month 1, I'm going to go back into the action plan. And what we're going to do is spend a little bit more time with them building that out. and making sure that what they are focused on now is the immediate stuff. If there's anything else we need to add subtasks to as an example, and make sure that we've got all of the areas covered. Things obviously will come up throughout the year, but we just want to make sure that we've got a robust plan of actions to get them moving towards where they want to get to. And we're going to review those on a monthly basis with accountability. So that's what this bit is down here. And then quarterly, for months 6, 9, and 3, we're then going to review the numbers as well. So they work simultaneously, they work hand in hand. Because as Ainsley was saying, the actions, we get the client to take action. We then see what the numbers are saying. If the numbers have gone up or not, or if they've stayed the same, we can then determine what actions to then take afterwards. And it becomes a virtuous circle, hopefully, that we keep going, rinse and repeat, going through that process. So that's month one. You can do a tax review as well. If that's something that you do within your firm and you have a tax review checklist or questionnaire, you can do that with your client too. But otherwise, you're probably going to spend up to a maximum of an hour with them going through the action plan and just breaking it down into smaller bite-sized goals and targets. And then month two, we're going to build a financial plan and then get a cash flow sense check. So a cash flow forecast and a budget. And then now the system generates those in seconds. And I'll show you what that looks like in a moment. And what we recommend is spending up to about half an hour in each of those, editing any of the numbers that need to be played with, and then spending, again, probably about half an hour with the client to go through them and make sure that you haven't missed anything. And then that sets the plan for the year ahead. I will come back to that in a moment. I just want to just explain the rest of these. So then we've got the quarterly planning agenda where we're going to review the actions, discuss the numbers and the financial performance review. Again, I'll come back to that shortly. Then have the accountability meetings in between. And we're not going to have an hour meeting to go through that. You'll be able to do it much quicker, but we've allowed an hour for preparation and for you to have that meeting with the client. And you can see that we continue to follow that pattern. And then towards the end, we're going to then go through that process again that we did in month 0 to then get them set up for the next 12 months ahead, moving forward. Or if they're ready and if they want something more, we can then get them on the business success program as well. So that's just an overview of what the Clarity Planning Service looks like. What I want to do is jump into the agenda. Now I'm going to open these are new tabs, just so it's easier for me to come back to this, so I don't have to jump around. So let me just close these other ones down. That was the initial report. We'll close that one down. That was Numina's support article. And then now what we want to do is look at what the initial Clarity meeting agenda looks like. So there are two types of agenda in terms of one's for the client use and one's for team use. So it's client use, as it sounds, is the one you're going to send to the client 2 days before the meeting, and then follow that in the meeting itself. The team use, you can see just quickly that these are the things that are on the service map and what we've just explained in terms of how we would take the client through that meeting. And again, all of that's in our education as well to be able to support you through that process, in addition to what questions to ask and at what points and what to look out for when clients say certain things. So that's in here too. And then we have the team use agenda where it's more detailed. So these are just previews. You can download these and print them out. You can edit them as well, as Ainsley said. These are completely editable. So it's the same 7 steps, but we've got different prompts and questions and things that you can say. Notice that there's an end time on every agenda though. Really, really important. So the client knows that the meeting is going to end. So we can see here, the system has set one up for this time on this date, and then that's the end time. And you can see that you've got the different agendas for the different areas of what you're working on. We actually have different agendas actually for compliance as well as business diagnostic review, but these are the main advisory agendas that I'm in here. So you've got 3 sets altogether of different agendas that you can use. So compliance agendas are a different way to add more value and again, to clients to experience what it's like to work with you in a different way, using the pre-year end and the post-year end meetings. And in between that, we have the before, during, and after calls, which Aynsley used really well in his firm, that really built client relationships, but also showed that the tax saving or the profit improvement that you're doing just from compliance is that they actually get communicated to them. So it's a fantastic way of demonstrating how wonderful your team and firm are. So that's how we create the agendas. So that's the same process for all of them. You download it, and then once it's downloaded, we can then print it off and or email it across to the client as well. So just show you what that looks like. There we go. We've got the agenda here. So just the same as the preview, but just so you can see it in PDF. Okay, so let me go back into this section. So the action plan, that's just the action plan area where we were in a moment ago. So let's just jump back there quickly, just so you can see again what that looks like. So what we're able to do here is add additional tasks. We're able to add subtasks, and if we want to, we can change deadlines, move things around. So it's very simple to add a task by clicking the button, and the side pops up. We can enter the information, and away we go. Or we can add a subtask to the main task. So if we need to break that down into different milestone markers, we can do that too. But all the same principle along the way. It's a very simple process to go through. And equally, we can change certain tasks. If we say, actually, this is the priority now, we can click the star and that will force it through to the priority list. And then there we will see that additional task down here, and we can then fill in that information too. So that's how the action plan works when you're going through that with the client. But what I want to show you is the financial plan. So here, I am going to click this one now. In the financial plan, it's a budget effectively, but we're just using language that is not scary to business owners. And I've got one in here already, but I'm going to replace that just to show you what it looks like. So based on the numbers that we have previously created and on the action plan, we can build out, so these are the numbers the client created with you. We can build out a plan over the next 12 months of what that looks like. We get the option here to use historical trend or straight line. I'm going to use historical trend. And would I like to start that the system's just double checking that I want to start on the first month after the dates that we had, we had the meeting on the figures relating to March 25. Do we want to start the plan from April? And I think I will do in this instance, but you can choose a different date if you want to. And we can also add the actual numbers as well. If we know that we're a couple of months behind, we can add the actuals and the plan will rejig for that. But I'm not going to do that. I'm going to say, no, I don't want to include any actuals right now. So then what Numina will do then is generate that financial plan for us. And you can see that I've actually got a seasonal business here. So you can see that there's not much going on in certain months, but there are in others. So that will, because it's on a historical trend, that's what it's bringing through. So we can see how that business is performing. And you can see it's broken down by the P&L. So revenue, cost of sales, and what we can do is just minimize all of these and overheads and have a quick look and see if we're happy with these figures. And obviously that these will tie back to the numbers that we had earlier. But then what we can also do, as an example, if we know, let's say that we will be receiving, I don't know, let's say £1,000 a month in bank interest, I can adjust this by a fixed amount and I can do it for the whole period. Click save, and then that will update all of them. And there's lots of different ways that we can play with the numbers very quickly to get them updated. And if you're a techie, a geek at heart, then by all means export it to Excel and play with the numbers that way, and then you can re-import it. But you've got the ability to do it in platform too. So we can play with the numbers to our heart's content. And what we're looking for here, as an example, with overheads, if we know the audit fee or the accountancy fee is going to be a particular amount each month, we can put that in here. Same with things like rent and directors' remuneration. We can edit these numbers based on what we know is going to be happening with the client. So we can edit them individually. So if I know that one's going to be 500 for that particular month, I can just do one at a time, or I can edit multiple as I showed a moment ago. So that's how quickly and easy it is to create a budget. And that's just going to give us the targets that the client is aiming for each month and over the period to be able to generate the targets that they've set with you. Now, once we've generated the financial plan, we're then able to then go into the cash flow sense check. And this is a cash flow forecast, but we're presenting it for business owners. So we're not going to make it overcomplicated. So it's going to take what the opening balance is. It's going to use the net cash movement. I'll come to that in a moment. We can open that up by hitting the plus. It's going to show us what the closing cash balance is, as well as what we should be saving, or what the client should be saving, ideally, squirreling, if I can say that word, saving away as they go along to say for the taxman and the tax authorities. And then that's what's left is going to be free available cash. And again, what we can do is edit these numbers and go in to, if we know that they're going to be making an investment or the dividend figures are going to change, we can edit these. And let's say it's going to be 10,000, let's say as an example, and that will update as a result. And then similarly, if they're going to be making an investment or taking on loans, then we can update that as well. Oh, and I just realized that needs to be negative. There we go. So I'll do it the right way around. So that gives us an understanding of what's going on from a cash flow perspective. The reason that's really important, so again, probably half an hour max in there that you'll spend editing that. The reason that's important is we can see at any point, is the business going to go close to zero or below zero? And if they are, then we can speak to the client when we have that next meeting in month 2, we can speak to them about our funding service. So what we actually do have in here is what we call funding plan. Again, I'm just going to open that in a new tab just so we can see that separately. And we have effectively a working document in here for your team to go through and get the necessary information to help the client get the best possible funding. So qualification, what's the purpose of the loan? What's the life cycle of the client at? Why is that financing the best and why? Then quantification, what's the current position? How much they're looking to borrow? When do they need the funds and so on? And then presentation, providing all of the relevant documentation that's going to be required in order to help the lenders provide for them. And we actually have an API link through to Capitalize, so you can click the Get Funded button, and if you have a Capitalize account, you'll be able to then do the search on their platform, and then they can help you handle that with the client as well. So that is baked into the platform should the client need funding. If they don't, like this client doesn't, it's just peace of mind. And that's what we're doing here. We're giving peace of mind that the client has the cash in order to be able to achieve their plan. If funding isn't required, and if they haven't got a great deal of cash, but it's not quite zero, but it's close to zero, then that gives you a potential to say to the client, look, we just need to make sure, let's go into detail. We've got the cash flow sense check here, but what may well be worth doing is doing a more detailed cash flow forecast so that we can really drill into timings of the month as an example, because this is just month end. Maybe we need to do something daily to see how the business is going to manage the cash. And then that gives you an opportunity then to offer additional services over and above this if it's needed. But the great thing is it gives the client an understanding why that would be needed. We're just saying, do you want a cash flow forecast? The client's probably going to say no. So that gets them to understand our world a little bit more. So that is how we set that process up. And now that we've got that, we can then use that to compare how the business is going. So if we then go into monitor, and look at 7 key numbers. So in fact, let me just go back to the financial plan and I'll choose a month where we've got some numbers because I know the revenue is blank in some fields. So let's choose August. We're going to go and have a look at August. So let's choose August from the period, and we're going to look at what those numbers, the actuals, look like in comparison to the plan. And you can see what we're doing here is bringing it back full circle with the 7 key numbers. So they look a little bit different. They've got more color now to differentiate between the current position of the 7 key numbers, and this is the 7 key numbers review. So it's looking at how the business is doing compared to its plan. And we can see that actually business is off, all of them. So not a great position necessarily. So you can see just on the face of it, we planned to be at a negative 14 revenue growth at this point in time. We're actually at negative 43, okay? And we can click on it and then we can then put it into real terms. So we're actually 95K off of where we should be. And before the plan, we can see here that we were at 259 in terms of what the revenue, where the revenue was at, and we're now at 190. So even if we compare before the plan, we're still a little bit way off. So something's fundamentally going on in this business, as Numina alluded to at the very beginning. that's yo-yoing. There's something we need to get right here from a revenue perspective, and that's driving everything else. So we need to really get a handle on that. So it really signposts you to understand. So in a snapshot, we can see what's going on and we can dive deeper and speak to the client about it. Now, you wouldn't wait for this long to necessarily go through those numbers with the client. Probably do it a little bit sooner because 3 months after when we looked at it, it would be June. So if things need to be caught early to help improve the business, then you're going to catch them at that point. But equally, if the business is improving, you'll be able to see it here, which is fantastic. Or if it's not quite improving, but it is better than the plan, it would say here as well. So that figure would then be green as well. Just so happens with my demo company, everything's red, obviously going through a difficult time and we need to help them in a little bit more in a different way. Potentially the actions that we agreed aren't going to get us the results, or maybe the client hasn't done them or have done something else instead. So it just gives you an idea of what to do. So that's how we can look at it from a 7 key numbers perspective. But what we can also do is look at it at a budget, the actual variance report type of view as well. So here we can see the actual for the month was this, what the plan was that, and this is how far off we are. And then we can see year to date how we're performing too. And we can obviously look at how each of these individually as well, not just the summary, but that would be more for us when if we're ever going to show this to the client. Sometimes you might do, so most of the time it's sufficient just for the 7 key numbers. You would probably show it like this, so it's just a little bit cleaner so they can see what's happening. So that is an overview. Let's just come back to the the clarity planning service map and come back to my one. That is what you would then do going through that with your client, and then you'll generate obviously the accountability agenda to go through that process with the client in these months in between having the figures review and before jumping in and doing month 0 again at the end to get things going. So Ains, over
Yeah,
back to
thanks,
you.
Steve. Can you just go back to the financial performance review for me? I just want to show where we can get the AI to do the donkey work for us in advance of the meeting. So if we click that Get AI Assistance button, not only will it do that trend analysis that it did previously, now it's got a lot of data that it's chunking. So while I'll keep talking over it whilst it's doing it, and Steve can click the buttons in the background. What it's going to do here is it's going to look at the budget versus the plan. It's going to look at what's happening in the business. It's going to give you a trend analysis. It's also going to give you some suggestions and some suggested actions that you might need to talk to the client about to be able to then get the change in the business. So it'll look at the highest variances, the worst variances, the most important to maintain. It, as you can see, it's comparison of actual in up client meetings. These are the things you need to discuss, and these are potential proposed tasks that you should talk to the client about, again, based on their particular sector and industry. So a great way for you to be able to quickly prep for that meeting. And the AI is not going to tell you anything that you don't know already. It's a very controlled AI. It's using our systems, it's using our data, it's using our context, it's using our guardrails to be able to give you best preparation for the meeting. It's not going to tell you anything you can't see already. It's just going to augment or maybe speed up your preparation for that meeting. But a great way to give the team confidence in what they're seeing. It's backed up by the AI, so it's a great way for them to know that, yes, actually, these are the things I need to be speaking to the client in the meeting about. Now, lots of firms I know use them for year-end preparation as well. So they use Clarity, use the data for the year-end date and get AI and get the AI to do the analysis for them. That's obviously fine as well to do that too. But it's a great way to be able to quickly prep for meetings and get yourself going. Now, I just want to go back to the river again and show you the final bit, which is about how do we manage the process. So within Clarity, we've got tools to be able to help you manage the process as well. So as a firm, how do we see where we're going client by client basis? How do we see, the pipeline of advisory, but also how do we manage the ongoing process? And Steve showed you the agendas and the service maps to be able to manage the workflow. We might have time to show you the client timeline so you can see where you can get access to the timeline and see the data, and also the task management, because you can give the client access if you want to their own tasks. I tend to find most firms don't like to do that. They like to keep control over the process and to be able to take those tasks off for the client in the meeting. What did you do? What didn't you do from the previous meeting? You can, of course, download those tasks and give them to them as a PDF. But yeah, so we'll show you those tools quickly to be able to manage the whole process, and then we're going to come back and do a summary. I could show you the structure at a high level, so that it'll give you a summary of it, and we can talk about the various service lines that you can offer as well. And again, that'll summarize what we've done, so hopefully give you a nice complete picture.
Thank you very much, Aynsley. So let's do that now very quickly. Let's go into the client timeline. So here, it's as it suggests, it's a timeline of everything that we've done with the clients. So you can see this is the agenda that I created earlier. There's different reports. That's the report that I generated earlier. And then everything else that's happened with that client is all documented here. You can add notes in here with based on client meetings. You can upload documents as well. So if the client sent something in, so you can have everything all in one place. So as an example, why is that important? Well, if the person who's looking after this client is away for any reason, they're on holiday or they're unwell, then one of the team can step in and run the meetings. They can look at what's going on. So they can use the AI to help prepare for the meeting, as well as go into the timeline and see what was been going on with that particular client, as well as see the notes from their colleagues, and the action plan obviously paints a picture as well. The tasks area here, we've got different tasks that you can have, or different views of your tasks you can access. So tasks today are all of the tasks that I need to do today or were due previously. So all of those all in one place. So I can add personal tasks in here as well as a team member without attributing them to a client. And that I can filter them and just show my tasks, and as well also to show client tasks. Now, there is an argument to say that you might want to invite your clients to the platform, and maybe it's just access to the action plan and seeing their 7 key numbers, not being able to play with their numbers, so that the system will remind them about the due dates for their tasks, because the system will provide an email and or in-app message. So when tasks are becoming due, so you can set the deadline up to be up to a week in advance of the due date, so that the client is reminded. They can snooze it too. So if they want to do it tomorrow, they can snooze it for 24 hours and away they go. So that is something to consider, because then that saves you having to contact them and ask them if they've completed it or not. But as Ainsley said, if you're just going to control that with the reports and the meetings, by all means, you can do that too. But this platform's there to help do some of the heavy lifting for you. Okay, so now Ainsley talks about the whole management of that piece. So I'm going to go into deal flow. So in deal flow, what we're able to do here is create various different boards for us to manage things in the platform and with clients and prospects. I'm going to show you the advisory pipeline board first. So here, what we've got is a Kanban style methodology. So we've got clients cards. So each client has a card, and they're going to be in various columns depending on where they are in their journey. And we want to move the clients from left to right. And I'll just show you where that end looks like in a moment. But if you remember, when we first jumped into the platform, we got Numina to do an AI a view on who we should be speaking with. So it's brought the clients up here on, these are the clients that we should be speaking with. It's got the little star on it, so you can see these are the ones that Numina's been in touch with before. So that she's had her hands on those ones. And for these particular clients, she's given a high priority to go and speak with, because of the profit improvement figure, as well as there being a positive cash gap as well. So she explains why they're high on the cards too. So let's say, for argument's sake, with Steve's Avengers, that's a client I want to contact. So I'm going to drag it out of there and put it into the client to contact column. That updates the date here and moves it to this column. And then we can just keep moving them, dragging them, dropping them into the areas where we want to go. So as an example, if I've had the meeting with Aynsley's Avengers and they've bought a service, so I am going to drop them into the proposal agreed. We get confetti on the screen, which is always nice. And we also get the opportunity, so we've got a pre-built LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter message that you can share with your community. Obviously, it doesn't give any names. It doesn't give any data away. It's just saying the amount that you're helping the client to improve in their business. And if they want to contact you, anyone who's seen that, if they'd like that too, then they can click on this link. So you can edit all of that and add your own link in here. And if you click the various button, that will take you through to the platform to be able to do that. Now, sometimes clients don't agree or disagree in the meeting itself. So you can leave them in the proposal given column and follow up with them. And equally, some will decline, or some might even want to go into the proposal. They'll just say, just send me the action plan, which we discussed earlier. So you can drag and drop the clients. It's a great way for you to keep on track of where each client is. You can sort by each of the columns in terms of the highest value and potential fees that you're going to generate from this. And you can filter too. So if you've got a number of team members involved, you can see how each of them are doing and if any need moving along. So you can see here as an example, this one was updated on the 4th of February. 2025. So probably best to do something about that one because it's a little bit out of date. So it just gives us an opportunity to see very quickly the clients that we need to speak with and the ones we need to do something with, and who in the team needs to speak with them. So that's deal flow from a pipeline perspective. For advisory, we can do the same for funding, and we can do the same for all of the other different services. So the clients that are on our planning service, as an example, we can have the monthly columns, and then we can just drag and drop the clients on the various areas along the way. And similarly, we can do the same for prospects. So for any prospects, we can have the visual in here and where we're taking the client and what stage they're at and what needs to happen. So it's a really fantastic visual way of keeping on top of your pipelines, of the management of clients and on the services, and who's coming up for renewal as well, as an example, and for the team to be able to get on board. Thanks.
Thank you. So as you can see, I mean, it's a very complete solution. It's a complete end-to-end solution, that end-to-end advisory. So how do we identify the clients to speak to in the first place? How do we connect with them and how do we contact them? How do we engage with them? How do we deliver advisory on a repeatable, scalable way? And then how do we manage the whole process? So a complete end-to-end, as we can see within the platform. And that's obviously on top of the education and on top of the ongoing support and mentoring and accountability that we can give as well from that perspective. I just want to summarize the structure because this is the reason, I suppose, why a lot of people come to Clarity. They like the structure. So let me go through the clear business advisory map. So first off is the current position. So where are our clients now? And as you can see in Clarity, we use the 7 key numbers to help simplify, take that complexity out of the financial data, give the team the same 7 key numbers on an ongoing basis so they can understand those numbers and how they connect and interrelate and how to speak to the client about those numbers. And also from the client's perspective, simplifying and giving them a common set of numbers to understand going forward on a month by month by month basis. The next is leaderboards. So how do they compare? I don't know about you, but when I was in practice, we always had clients asking, how am I doing? How am I comparing to my peers? Are things good or bad or what? And, in the past, we didn't really have the benchmarking data to be able to accurately talk about it. So we might fluff it and say, oh, well, you're not doing too bad. And, oh, you're better than some clients and blah, 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 blah. Well, to be able to go in detail and be able to understand how they're comparing and to show where they're doing strong and where they're doing weak, where they might need to focus, where they might need to double down on is really, really powerful. And Steve didn't show you the reports, but you can create a beautiful benchmarking report very simply at the click of a button again, using that traffic light system. So giving them a really nice nifty report that they can either entice them into a meeting or maybe on an ongoing basis, you provide that report to show them how they're doing. So leaderboard is really, really powerful. Then we look at end game. So what's their potential? And within Clarity, we're using the 7 key numbers, or sorry, the 5 levers from that 7 key numbers. So those 7 key numbers turn into 5 levers. So again, simplicity from the client's perspective. And using your critical analysis and critical thinking, you're that intelligent friend. Like you're not just going to say, oh, that's easy. Yeah, absolutely. Let's go with that. You're going to go, oh, that looks a little challenging. How are you going to do that? And we can, just be there, not criticizing, but just being that person who's just asking how and asking why and those questions. And also your ability to understand which of the levers are going to have the biggest impact is really, really powerful. Let's be honest, you get numbers. Most small business owners don't. It's a superpower you probably don't even realize you have. And to be able to share that ability and that knowledge with small business owners is absolutely priceless and invaluable. The next stage is the actions. So this is understanding the shifts required to get from A to B. Now, normally what happens in advisory is that we give clients a financial plan. Now, bearing in mind they don't get their numbers, Giving them a plan that's based on numbers means it's very hard for them to know what they need to do to make the plan come true. By working closely with them on that action plan. And we can see from Clarity, you can use the AI to help generate that. You'll be asking the client, our processes and agendas and tools and scripts and systems help you ask the client what they need to be doing to move from A to B. This is not about you providing all the answers. In business, we will never really know if something's going to work or not. We can argue black and blue in theory in advance until we take some action, test, A/B test, possibly, measure, monitor how it's doing. We're never going to know if something's real or accurate or going to work or not. So this is not about us giving the client the answers. It's about asking the right questions for the clients to be able to help themselves and understand what actions they need to do to be able to move forward. So this is that action hub that Steve showed you, where you can keep that up to date on an ongoing basis. Really, really powerful. And then it's about that ongoing review. So it's using the 7 key numbers or the financial performance review to go full circle and to see if the numbers now don't lie. So are the actions having the desired impact or not? And we've talked about that. This is about those regular meetings, that continuous improvement, and that cycle of that virtuous circle that Steve talked about, moving the client higher and higher and higher up the process. So a really powerful, simple structure to be able to put in play, repeatable, scalable, get the team on board, and it fits, as Steve said, niftily into these very nice areas. So one is a business diagnostic review. So that's just the diagnostics. You can offer that to prospects. You can offer that to existing clients. It can be standalone or it can be part of the whole process that we talked about. You can offer a planning service, which is then helping them take the next level, so closing the gap, and then about how do you measure and monitor that on an ongoing basis. So a really great structure called Clear. It is clear, to be able to help your clients, and again, a very visual representation for them, whether that's up on your wall or whether that's used as a visual agenda. It really gets the clients asking, "Oh, what's that? And what's this all about?" And for a visual agenda in a meeting to be able to walk them through it on an ongoing basis is really, really powerful. Now, how does that fit into the service lines that we talked about? Well, on screen, we've got some subscription services that you could offer your clients based on that business diagnostic review, that accountability, on the planning. And you've seen in the system how all of these translate into a service map. So you've got a workflow on what you need to do month by month by month to deliver each of these service lines. And those are pre-built into the pricing cards as well. So the system has all of this already inbuilt. You can edit everything. I wouldn't edit at the start. We know it works. We know what's achieving success. So you can just hit the ground running. Of course, you can tweak and play once you know what's working and how it works, and then make it your own and bring in your own IP, whether that's into the cards that you can ask the client on the tasks, and you can have strategic decks and simple decks, whether it's into the pricing, whether it's into the service maps and doing it slightly differently. You've got that ability to edit it within Clarity, but everything's already good to go and it's already working with clients and with firms in practice. And we've got a whole 30-day implementation plan with you, step by step, to help you go from zero to hero with business advisory, getting at least 5 clients on board, if not more, within that 90-day period, depending on the number of team that you have, of course. Now, we've also got longer programs, shorter programs, accelerators to be able to help you. This is not about you going, how do I take the first step? We will guide you on what the first step is, the next step, the step after that. You are never left alone here. This is about us sharing what's working now, what worked, what's always worked, and those learnings that come into play. We're continuously updating not just the education, but the platform as well, based on what's happening on the ground. And it's never static. So it's always best practice that we'll be sharing with you. But as you can see, the business diagnostic review is a very simple going through the 7 key numbers maybe twice a year with a client. And that's a minimum suggested pricing of £97, which is a month, which is 2 hours per annum in delivery. So you can see as we go up the scale, the hours don't dramatically shift upwards, so we can see the value really kicking in the higher we go into these service lines. But again, for example, quarterly accountability is doing those key numbers, but also using the agenda system and working with the client with those agendas and looking at the numbers at a very high level. I suppose for the getting into the budget creation and the tracking those, that's where it's really, really, I think the planning really kicks in, and that's a minimum price point of £457 a month. The system will calculate it automatically. It'll value price it on top of that. And that's delivering 20 hours a month. So, sorry, 20 hours per annum, not 20 hours per month, 20 hours per annum. So it's a good recovery. And this generates roughly an 80% GP margin compared to compliance, which is probably creating about 50% GP for you. So again, a big improvement in profitability. And we can see as this goes up, and for example, on your monthly planning, and maybe for your better clients, you're going to need that additional reporting on top of what Clarity already does. And for example, you might want to plug in Spotlight into that to be able to make that happen. We've also talked about business success. So that's, Steve mentioned it earlier. It's where maybe clients have been on this process for a year or two or three, or maybe they're more sophisticated clients that want to go to that next level. Well, we've got the tools and the systems to be able to help you deliver that business success program. And effectively, it's built on the business success hierarchy. So we'll give you the tools and scripts and processes to be able to help business understand its purpose, its core values, and that legacy objective, that big, hairy, audacious goal, where they are looking to get to. The next phase is understanding the business model and how that fits in from the basis of the vision and the values that you have in place. The strategy, so basically strategy is how we're going to beat our competitors in simple terms. So what needs to happen to make that work for the client, working then to put that strategy into play. So that's where the business plan fits in. And then how do we measure and monitor as we're going along those OKRs, so those objectives and key results, which are a far more powerful tool than just KPIs, which can be backward looking and a little bit historic. With OKRs, we're far more bringing the targets into play on a strategic level. So making sure effectively that we're going right up the chain. And of course, this isn't a one-off process. As you can see, this bit is where we innovate the business model. This is how we execute the business model and the plan. But it's all about that ongoing continuous improvement and change. And that's what the whole process is on an ongoing basis to be able to move forward. So a great tool to be able to, for those more sophisticated clients and also those clients that maybe have been doing advisory for a while. We would not recommend you jump straight into the business success program. That's purely when you've been doing advisory on a regular basis. You may never go down that business success program, by the way. It might be partner led, and it might be, as we know, partners probably have the least amount of time amongst all of the team. So it may be something that you don't do initially, or it might be if you've got your existing advisory service, you can see how that fits into it as well. Now, the next steps. So we've covered a lot. I don't expect you to absorb all of this and go, great, I get it. This is about, okay, the next steps. If that excites you, if that interests you, if that shows you that we have the system, the tools, the structure, the education, and the support to be able to help you introduce a next-gen advisory solution that not 1980s style bespoke advisory, but that repeatable, scalable advisory for the modern world, leveraging AI to its maximum. The NextGen Blueprint is our 90-day program to help you implement business advisory from zero to at least 5 clients over the line per person. So a great way, on an engaged way, with us helping and supporting you throughout that whole 90-day to understand, do I have the right clients? Do I have the ability? Do we have the skills? Do we have the team? How can we do this? How do we get in touch with clients? How do we have the first meeting? How do we get them on board? And how do we have the ongoing meetings? That's all covered within that 90-day blueprint. A great way to be able to introduce business advisory. Now, if you're saying, okay, that's 90 days, that's potentially a big commitment. Our accelerator program is 3 days. And in 3 days, we will help you understand the potential in your accounting firm, the opportunity, the potential. We'll help you understand in very simple, high-level terms how to market, price, sell, and deliver business advisory. We'll help you understand, do you have the skill set? Do you have the ability? And is this something that you want to do? A lot of people will have both the accelerator and the blueprint together, and because they want to move faster. And you've seen the success that some firms have achieved, 40K within the first month alone. This works. The only reason it doesn't work if you don't put the time in, you will have the clients for this. You will have the team to be able to deliver this. This is purely, if you can follow a plan, you will achieve success from Clarity's next gen advisory. So I guess the next real step for you is to book a call with one of the team. No obligation. We'll walk you through the opportunity. We'll look at potentially what's possible in your firm. So if you've got that, if you're a zero firm, we can, with one click, load your clients. If you're not a zero firm, if you've got QuickBooks or Sage clients, obviously that takes a few more clicks to be able to get more of those clients on board. But we can quickly show you whether you have the potential within your firm. And we'll also talk to you about the logical next steps, whether you just get stuck in with Clarity straight away, or whether you join one of the programs to see if it's right for you. And then how do we support you on an ongoing basis to either introduce a business advisory service, or how do you scale your business advisory? We'll be there with you to hold your hand, to get you across the bridge so you know what you need to do to achieve success, whatever your definition of success is. I hope you've enjoyed this. I appreciate it's been in depth. I appreciate you've probably got lots of questions. Book a call with one of the team and we'll answer any questions you've got, and we'll walk you through the possibilities and the opportunity for you and how you're going to go about achieving that. Steve, have you any final words?
Other than thank you. Thank you very much, Ains, and thank you for watching and playing along with the interactions. And we look forward to speaking with you soon.